In five, four, three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Moon Tea Podcast. Hugh's in space, check it out. Or I don't know where you are, but today we have Ed Israel, Ed the First, whatever you want to call him. Fun story. Ed and I met at a Jason Mraz concert, and then it was me, Ed, and JR. We got dinner. The concert was canceled because there was also a hurricane going on at the same day. And then yeah, later that day, or like a few days later, I was like, hey, you're pretty cool. Want to be on our podcast? Not that the bar is very high for getting on guests, but
I was gonna say
it's the highest. Don't worry.
No, it's the lowest. It's for sure the lowest. Also, I don't want to railroad your lovely intro, but I feel like we have to go back to Jason Mraz for a second. Like that was such a funny moment.
Yeah.
That was just it was a great, beautiful, because you just moved to New York. And it was a really beautiful kind of New York moment, I thought, because JR and I are like embittered old New Yorkers, and I'd gotten these tickets to check out the show. Probably one that I would not have sought out originally. Nothing against Mr. Mraz and his musical stylings, but yeah, like the skies opened up, and JR and I are like, is my friend JR, who yeah, he was coming along for the ride, the Mraz ride.
Funny story is he's the only one wearing a fedora at this concert.
Unironically or uncoincidentally, yeah, he was wearing a fedora without knowing that Jason Mraz wears a fedora. And so everyone was like, oh, this guy knows what's up. And he did not know at all what was up. And yeah, we see this, and there's this guy, nice friendly looking guy in line, just right ahead of us, let us know that was the end of the line. And yeah, I guess we just struck up a conversation, and that's kind of how it happened. And then we got drenched, and of course the concert was canceled, and we all got poke, and that's how John here discovered that I was a cool guy, apparently. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank
Ed
you on
and
mute,
Hugh
Hugh.
Well, oops, who knew?
Come on,
You
host.
heard nothing. Sorry.
Come on, host.
Uh-oh. I said nothing. That's so cute. I love that.
I'm the host now.
Yeah, right. God, kick him out. That's really cool. Wow. So who went up to who? Who's like, hey, have
well,
you?
I was
Ed the First.
I was the one who was at the concert by myself, because I had just moved in, and I grew up listening to Jason Mraz, and so I was like, I really want to go. I'll go by myself. I texted like 4 people, and no one could go, so I was like, I'm just gonna go by myself. You only live 3, maybe 4 times, so gotta take advantage of those 3 or 4 times.
Tell me more about this statement.
John knows something we don't.
It's like a cat with half the lives.
I like the 3 or 4. And in his mind, he's like, well, it depends on what you do at your 10th birthday. It really comes down to that. I'm not going to say why.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, I should say.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Yeah.
Gonna brew up some moon tea. Right.
But yeah, Hugh is the co-host, also a very friendly. Also bonus that he's a good-looking guy. So
very good looking. Both of you very handsome.
Right. This is a good
very
crew right
gentleman.
now. Yeah, I'm kind of envious of the shadow you've got going on. Or the beard. It's not really a shadow, is it? It's kind of like grown in. You trimmed it?
It's I did trim it. I trimmed it, and it's sort of got that reddish. I'm one of those ginger beard types.
Very good.
I'm sure if those who are listening to this only on audio will have to imagine it. Sort of
It's
a dark
scintillating
auburn.
for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's your eyes can never unlook at the beauty that radiates
Wow.
red.
Okay, got to get on my good side here.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
I already know this is going to be a hard one. Oh no, trying to get as many points as I can for just
Yeah.
drops.
I
Uh-oh.
just want to say one kind of awesome thing that happened on this concert. Like 5 minutes after we started chatting, the conversation became like it was something like, "Have you ever been in love?" And we were just like, talking like just going on about this, and it was like a very real and sincere conversation about like how do you know when you're dating someone who's like the right fit. And I was just struck by the just like where I was and the fact that it was happening. And we can go into that or whatever else seems interesting.
Yeah, we go deep. JR and I mean, we don't mess around. Small talk is for the birds. We go right for love, heartbreak, heartache, pain, whatever it is. Nothing's off limits. So
Yeah. Ed, do you wanna introduce yourself to our 33 subscribers, and however you want to run with
I
that?
love the just specificity of always of hammering home the subscriber count. You know, Jesus would be proud. Hi, I'm my name's Ed Israel. Also go by Eddie. Edward is my full name. People always are very curious about this, so I'm filling in some blanks. Unsolicited. Yeah. So I understand there's like a loose sense of career orientation around these conversations, so I can kind of touch on that. I checked out a little bit of some of your other episodes. But yeah, I'm originally from the DC area, Rockville, Maryland. And I've lived in Philly, I lived in LA briefly, I've been in New York almost 9 years. So I've had a little experience in that regard. My background is in music. I studied music composition and then went to grad school for arts management, which is essentially nonprofit management with an emphasis in the arts. I then got a job at a music licensing company in New York. That's actually what kind of got me to New York, which was really a wonderful. It's not like moving to New York for some people, I think, is like always in the plan. That wasn't always in my plans, but it got me here in my late 20s. And it was certainly, I think sometimes people live a little bit more in a day in New York than they do certainly, at least in my own experience, in other cities and especially, so I lived in some suburbs for a while in my 20s, and yeah, I grew up in suburbs, so it's a nice contrast to that, and a good experience. So yeah, I've been in this music biz gig for my entire tenure in New York. Actually, I write music still for fun on the side. I do photography as well, which I've done sort of photography and some brand strategy for a startup, and just as a little sort of on the side. And COVID's been interesting. Learned some ukulele. Really got very. I had done it before COVID, but really got into the sourdough in a big way and got very good at it, and it's become a real passion. And trying to learn a little French as well along the way, but don't test me.
I love it. This is amazing.
So that's just a little about me. Play a little tennis, if you can see what's going on back there too. So that's kind of my life. You know me now. You know everything there is to know.
Oh shit.
Where do we begin?
All right, Hugh, go for it.
what was the first of all of those things? I'm guessing music is probably the largest passion you have for a lot of it, or equally distributed?
This is such a weird thing to say, and not at all probably the right way to answer this question. The word passion for me, I think the definition, or what it means, or at least what it means to me, has really evolved over time. And is music I think when I think of some people who have a passion for something, it's like they can't live without it. It's like breathing to them. I don't think I have anything necessarily in my life that's like that, but passion is something I developed a knack for, actually sort of unwittingly. When I was younger, I didn't think I was particularly good at it. And not to brag, I was the president of my college acapella group. Yeah, I know.
You're
Relax.
acapella. Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
keep your pants on. And and I got into, they needed arrangements for that group, just to take an arrangement. Being, for those who may not know, it's just like you hear a song on the radio or the song that's big at the time, and to actually put the note, write the parts for the tenor, it was all male group, so tenor, baritone, bass, into the different voice parts. So I realized I just had a knack for that. And that led sort of naturally into composing music. I was studying psychology at the time, and then shifted just into music. So it became something that I found I had a natural knack for, and is something that is definitely a big part of my life. I was thinking the other day, like the ability to sing, to be able to hear pitches and sing them back, which is not something everyone can do. I was thinking, sometimes people ask, like, if you lost that ability, and everyone has their own version of that, right? Like maybe it's the ability to paint or to draw beautifully or expressively, right? Like, which I definitely don't have, but whatever that thing is, like, that would be, I would say that it's almost I'd say it's part of my identity, even in some way, just to be able to do that, which is true for a lot of people. So that's very important to me. Is it a passion? Sure.
Ooh, we can dig deeper.
Yeah, I have some more thoughts on this issue of passion.
Is there anything you would say you do have a passion? Like, I don't know, however you want to describe it, or I guess now that you're making me think about it, I'm like, do I have a passion for anything? Like, there are things that I like to do, and there are things that I enjoy. Like, I love hiking, but is it a passion? Like, I don't know. You're making me
And where
think
is that
too.
line between passion and obsession, and what is healthy, and does it matter? Relating it to career a little bit, and I think this ties to answer your question a little bit, about yourself. I think there's a strange phenomenon in our modern society where it's almost, and this is it's so privileged, right? It's like there's almost, I almost had a pressure to have a passion. It was like, find your passion. It was like, find what your passion. I went to a liberal arts college. It was like, see what you're into, find what you're passionate about. And I think some of the worst advice I ever got, that a lot of people got, especially regarding career, was follow your passion. I think it's such terrible advice. And of course, I think, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So we all know that person that's like, oh yeah, I love my job, I love my work. If you love it, you'll never work a day in your life, right? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. We've all heard that, right? And it's like, well, fuck you, first of all. Like, the hubris to think like everyone should think like you, and just to sort of imprint your worldview on others like that, which is obviously what a lot of people do. But the better advice I heard only in the last few years, which is on a podcast I was listening to. They were interviewing Elizabeth Gilbert, who I think she wrote, was that the Eat, Pray, Love?
Yeah. Unless there's another Elizabeth Gilbert.
No,
I'm sure
I think
there are
that's the
many
one.
Elizabeth Gilberts.
and she said, follow your curiosity. And I kind of had this, because I had this feeling in college, oh, okay, I'm doing music now. I got to get an internship at like a symphony, or I got to learn, or maybe in the music biz somewhere. And eventually after college, I interned for a film composer in LA. And no one would ever say to you, well, intern at an accountant's office. Because why would you do that, right? Well, guess what? You could learn a lot from that experience, even if you have no interest in accounting. Learn how an office runs. Learn how a business, or just a business runs, a small business runs. There's endless things you could learn, and I was just not the environment I came up in. And so I really, and the other thing, and I would say photography is sort of I have passions, or I'm passionate leaning towards photography, but and I actually technically do still have like call it a side hustle, and I do call myself a semi-professional photographer, and I've done it in various capacities for money, and that's wonderful. But there's another part of me that's like, I am not sure that it's kind of like reading for pleasure. Like sometimes if you have to read it for a school assignment, suddenly it's like, oh, well, this is kind of lame. Like I can't really, and that was my issue anyway. Like I know a lot of people they're fine with that, but reading something for pleasure for that's required is take something for me and I'm sure others too out of it. So I'm really careful around the word passion and how I talk about it, and I'm really interested in how people apply it.
I respect that, because the easy thing would have been to be like, yes, music is my passion, photography is my passion, these are all my passions, and look at me making a life and being able to pay for rent. Check me out, world. But yeah, I mean, that's not the reality of it. Like, have you heard of Cal Newport, by the way?
I have one of his books sitting right behind me.
Oh, nice. Have you read it, or is it just to look nice on a bookshelf?
No, I got a few. Definitely doesn't look nice. I've gotten a few chapters. I'm blanking on the title right now. Of course, it's the
So good they
one.
can't ignore you. Deep work.
Deep work. Yeah, deep work.
Okay, that's classic. But yeah, I actually Cal Newport. Like while we're on this topic, I highly recommend reading more than a few chapters, and like even listening to a few podcast episodes. Like he has a podcast, but he talks a lot about this idea of forget about your passion, and instead of that, like focus on developing rare and valuable skills. And he calls that career capital. And he says when you have career capital, you have a lot more freedom to choose the terms of the work that you want to do. You can pick and choose projects. You can do like more interesting work, obviously get paid more. And then outside of that, like go on that hike that you wanted to do, or like hang out with your kids. And yeah, that was something that was like a pretty big departure from what I had grown up being taught, where it was like, there's a kid who like plays a piano at 5 years old, and then it's just hooked, and then becomes like Yo-Yo Ma. I know Yo-Yo Ma had played another instrument, but whatever. But like most people are not like that. And also like Yo-Yo Ma is good because he has a rare and valuable skill, which is he played cello for decades, and he's like one of the best in the world. So yeah, that was like a pretty big turning point for me. And then I like read all his books, and I don't read them anymore because he says the same thing over and over, but it has shaped a lot about how I think about career and how I think about like the work that I do, and like just like how I choose the projects at my company. So it's been pretty hopeful.
And by the same token, there's the podcast, A Slight Change of Plans. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'm blank.
Write that down.
The host is a woman who actually was fully from childhood on track to be a concert violinist. Just to go with the music example, and she sustained a career-ending injury before her career got started, and she went on to do have this wonderful career in the Obama administration, and she's at Google, and now has this very popular podcast. And she's I apologize, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But which is to say, so because she had this major change of plans in her life, and she adapted and she thrived as a result of it. I think the notion that you go to college or grad school or whatever, and then we're like, okay, now I'm ready to go do the thing, and someone's going to pay me to go do that thing. And also to your point about like having a specialized skill, like, yes, that's part of it, but I think the bigger lesson is you always have to, there's no end of your education. I think at least I was fed this idea of like, you kind of go through the motions you check the boxes, and you're like, you're good. Now you go out, go into the workforce, you're going to make it, you're going to go. And it's like, nah, bro. Maybe to some, especially in more traditional paths, maybe, and that accountant, I mentioned that before, nothing against accountants. Love you guys. But if you're not going down a traditional path like that, expect to have to relearn something entirely. And I know I've had to do that. And just so the ability to learning how to learn, and specifically how you learn is vital. And that piece of paper on your wall, that fancy piece of paper you paid a lot of money for, like, that's cool, but what does it mean if you don't have that specialized ability? We lost Hugh.
Yeah, he's
in the Milky Way.
Out in space.
It's fantastic, though. I'm definitely curious about what's the definition of passion? We've said the word so many times now, it's lost all meaning to me. Let's restart it.
Passion is when you see someone and they make you give feelings, and you have
oui.
Oh, oui.
One of my favorite lines. I was once on a cruise ship with my fam, and every night you go and you sit at a table and you have dinner, and to our right was this fantastic couple, and one of the things that they taught me was, I was like, so what's a good pickup line if I were in France, because this was around the Mediterranean? And he's like, let me tell you my favorite. That I'm like, oh yes. And so it is, you go up to someone and be like, bonjour, mi la petite chérie chouchou, which is, hello, my pretty little cabbage. And so Cabbage. That's what I learned. And then I've never tried it, and I'm sure it would work. So hopefully someone uses that someday.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see, cabbage is sexy vegetable for sure.
I think the French accent is so sexy. I have a huge weakness for when someone speaks with the French accent. And
I actually want to go along, but I don't even want to try to butcher it.
Nailed it. Beautiful. John, you nailed it. Don't change a thing.
Sometimes, like, if John were in woman form, I would be like, John, please take me.
Okay. This took a turn.
Oh no, did that come out?
Let's keep it after the podcast. We can talk.
We're recording. Oh, my fault. Oh dear.
I feel like something came out there. I'm not sure what.
Ed, I'm actually curious why you're learning French, and like how long you've been doing it. And
oh man. I love, well, actually, to Hugh's point, and not just the accent, but I love the language. I was not an astute language learner in school growing up, and I took Spanish, like a lot of schools. All it was offered was Spanish and French. And I took Spanish because honestly, it was like, oh, Spanish is more practical. We live in the US. We live, of course, we share a border with Mexico, and you always heard these things. Oh, the Latino population is going to be good. You should know Spanish, like it's practical. And no one ever says which of these languages sounds more interesting to you, or which of these languages makes you, I don't know, sounds cool. No one asked that question, because that's like not, I guess, not a capitalistic way of thinking about learning for the sake of learning, right? So I don't know exactly what the moment was, but I thought to myself, I had an interest in it. I had and I went to France a couple of years ago, and I had picked up a little bit, and I'm not fantastic at it, but I can kind of form the sounds halfway decently for an American who's didn't grow up with that language. I can kind of make the I can do the R's and roll the R's in my throat, and I can say, so like I don't sound like a complete buffoon. So in other words, it was fun. It was like, I was like, oh, this is like fun, and it's interesting. So I used one of the apps, not Duolingo, but a different one, and then I did a class during COVID at one point, which was interesting as well, over Zoom. Not ideal, but it was great exposure. I watched. I don't know if you guys watch any French TV shows. 10% or Call My Agent, which is what it's titled on Netflix, is fantastic. Fantastique. Yeah, so I was just trying to get into it, and I'm actually planning to go later this month. So yeah,
starting a new life, one-way ticket.
Starting in it. Yeah, it might be. You know what? If you don't hear from me, John, for a while, I might just be lost in some lavender fields.
This is amazing. Do you know what city you'd want to go to?
Yeah. So the plan is to go. So I'm flying to Marseille.
Ooh, Marseille, south of France, beautiful.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Mediterranean, so you know what's up. And I'll fly out of Nice, but I'll drive around. I'm gonna go to Aix-en-Provence, and then up to Avignon, which is on the Rhone river there, and then I'm gonna cut to the east and spend some time in the sort of mountainous villages. And then I haven't figured out the rest of it yet, but I'd also like to see a football match if possible. But mainly just to get away, eat some cheese.
I admire that you did not just go straight to Paris.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always wanted to go
great,
south, but
yeah.
I mean, especially with COVID, it's going to be a pretty solo adventure, and just be out away from people.
Amazing. And is there anything you're looking for in those towns, or like why you picked that region specifically, or is it just more remote? Or I'm not looking for anything specific in the towns. I'm looking for a feeling within myself. I'm looking to feel a sense of serenity, calm, and being in that. You can do that in the US, right? But to be in that environment where the language is different, the culture is different, the history certainly is very different. This will be my first flight in all pandemic too, so I'm just been getting prepped for it, and I'm just looking for a major change of scenery. It's something I mentioned about with John when we met. Like, I have some other projects I'm working on, and I'm hoping to just clear my head in a way that will hopefully make me not just more prone to inspiration, but to gain some more perspective on my life, my path,
yeah, I'm hoping to make some changes in the next year or so. So I see this as part of that journey.
Can I
So
make
I'm not looking to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Wanted to give a shout out to italki.com, Italki, and you can pay a native speaker to talk with you for an hour, and you can do it for like $10.
Wow.
So yeah, I actually just got off a Korean lesson, so I do that like once a week or so.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it a lesson, or or you like they're not trying to teach you? You're just learning. You're just practicing. Excuse me.
You can choose professional teachers if you want, but my goal is just to chit chat for an hour, like hopefully someone friendly. And I just had an idea, like what if I record it and then it just becomes a podcast? That's so
This
okay.
guy. You get one taste. You get one little taste of the podcast glory, and now suddenly everything's a podcast.
We could have
think you should do
33
it.
subscribers over there going mad with power. But yeah, I really like it. I wanted to not lose my Korean, and so I just like do like a weekly
Did I freeze?
thing.
Did you freeze? Someone froze.
I think you're back. You're good.
Yeah, but yeah, it's worth a shot.
That's great. Not even
Italki?
just doing it. That's fantastic. Ed
Thank
heard
you.
it here first. That's good. So I'm curious about this journey that you're going on, in the sense that you wanted to discover or feel serenity and calm while recentering yourself on getting and deriving inspiration from the travels, as well as continuing on thinking about and maybe changing a few things. Is there anything that's top of mind? That's what is it that you're just kind of, is there anything, no actual question, just kind of open-ended?
Yeah. As I mentioned, I've been in New York for the better part of a decade, same job. And that's all well and good. But I think I've spent a lot of my life trying to do this in some fashion or other. It sounds so cheesy and deep in a way, but like I'm trying to I've been trying to get back to who I think I am, at least in my core, which is a more of an explorer, an inventor. I always hope I'll never lose a sense of like a childlike sense of wonder. It's funny to say out loud, and in that vein, I living in New York, especially, kind of one way or another, kind of tells you what can add some insight anyway into the kind of life you want to lead. And that's why I know a lot of New Yorkers, they'll move out to the country, or certainly they'll get a house upstate, which is the thing people do. And yeah, I'm not sure. I think by nature, my nature is to be, like I said, an explorer, an inventor, or even like if I was born in another time, like a farmer. Even I like working with my hands. I like making things. I think that's why a lot of people do sourdough. A lot of people stopped, but but things like that. A lot of us, and I believe your careers might be. You obviously make products, and you make things like and web design, and that's an important and fantastic thing. But a lot of us don't make things with our hands the way we used to. We being like the royal we, humans used to. We don't make a lot of tangible things anymore. And not, of course, not everyone feels the desire to, but I think it's in my nature. I do have that yearning to make things and to create and to we've lived through some really strange times. I don't know if you guys noticed in
What?
yeah, just a lot of, and yeah, so we're on this trip, right? We're on this ride, and so yeah, I'd mentioned to John, there's a business idea I've been thinking about, or or multiple, and but bigger picture than that, like just what do I want my story to be on planet Earth? It's at simultaneously and paradoxically everything. It means everything and nothing at the same time. And by that I just mean like my story. It's we're all the stars of our own movie, but also like we're also usually the only ones watching it. Or maybe our moms. So yeah, I'm looking. I want to sort of look into the void and see how I feel on the other side of this experience, and try to start living more true to myself in that sense, and whatever that means, in the time I was born, and the time I happen to be alive, and with the resources and the experiences I have. I'm so lucky. I'm just super rich with friends and love and support, and that's, which by the way is something that took time to really, I think we all know that, to really feel that and to understand that is it took time for me. I think I have a few years on you guys, but I think, like, not to say that you haven't come to that realization. I'm a late bloomer, I think, and so we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. Let you
I
guys
love it.
know.
You're living a second childhood, and then a third, and then a fourth.
I've been joking, but it's not a joke recently that I've been going through second puberty lately, because I don't know what's going on. I getting some BO I never had before. I never had BO. Now suddenly it's just popping out of nowhere. It's not that bad.
Might be that all natural deodorant. No, sometimes I'm just kidding.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
No, just
Okay.
not. I'm sure they're good ones, but I digress. Nice. That's.
Didn't you want to know that about me? I'm glad. I'm glad you.
We'll gloss over that.
Second puberty.
No, that's fantastic. I'm curious. Are you spiritual or religious? If you're open to that. Like,
I'm not. I actually, so I was raised Reformed Jewish, and I still actually ethnically and culturally identify very strongly as such. It's an important part of my identity. There was a hot minute when I was young that I wanted to be a rabbi.
ooh, awesome.
I was like into it. Not like, I don't know. It's my own perception. I don't know how it perceived, but I remember. So you fast on Yom Kippur, but you technically don't have to do that until you're after 13, after your bar mitzvah. But I remember I did it when I was 7 or 8 years old. And it was also because I wanted to be like the grown-ups, probably. And I really felt taken with that. I'm looking back, it was a childlike sense of spirituality and a childlike sense of that religion, and I still do, like I said, because Judaism in particular is an ethnicity as well, as a faith, and and so I these days I view it much more through the lens of I would have been sent to the camps had I been born a few years earlier in a different country, right? Like that's just the reality. So I look through. So, and it's so sadly become topical again with some of the views that are espoused these days. Because we always how you ask, how could people do that? And now we're kind of like, oh yeah, I guess I can see how people can become like that and commit such crimes. Shockingly. So yeah, I'm not spiritual. Yeah, so I'm not spiritual anymore. I call myself a Jaytheist.
There was, I forgot his name, but he wrote a book where, it was called like Living Biblically for a Year. But I really liked his line where he said, "I'm Jewish, like the Olive Garden is Italian."
Yeah, there's a lot of takes on that. Like, I think I've said, like, I really, I'm Jewish, emphasis on the ish, or some
There's
variation of
if
that.
there's one life lesson teaching, kind of like a memory either, that Judaism might have gifted you. Do you have one off the top of your mind?
Well, sure. It's and this is I don't know. The only reason I'm hesitating, what's coming up for me about this is that apparently I've heard like my parents' rabbi even sort of almost speak against this, which is a whole other thing. But it's tikkun olam, to heal the world. And it's interesting, a conversation I was having just recently was this idea of there's a lot of misconceptions, I guess understandably so, around this idea of Jews being the chosen people. And shockingly, like most religions, people interpret religious teachings basically just to suit their own needs and desires. And as such, I think a lot of people are offended if they're not Jewish by this idea that Jews are chosen people, or that like Jews are like, yeah, we're the chosen ones, and when they actually have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And what it means was that it's really a more accurate interpretation or translation would be like Jews are the responsible ones, and they were not even picked. It was they kind of stepped up when others wouldn't, to be responsible for all creeds, and to as almost like as in a caretaker kind of role. It was a stepping up. So that resonated with me, and I like to. It's important to me. Like I think stepping up, bucking up, stepping up with a social justice-y or altruistic bent or motivation or underpinning is it's not like, oh yeah, like that's good to do. It's like no, of course, because who else is going to do it? Of course you step up.
That does sound reformed, by the way.
Yeah,
where it's like,
I'm sure.
this whole thing with Abraham, yeah, like it's a little different. It's like, ooh.
I don't know. I'm not a scholar, but I'll take your word for it.
Huh. Very cool. What are some things you're into outside of your upcoming trip, outside of the day job, outside of wearing cool shirts and having cool waxed hair, and nicely trimmed beards?
Wow.
I could keep going, but
oh my gosh. This is look, if your goal is just to pander to me, I'll take it all day long. I like it. So yeah, I think one of my the luckiest things that happened to me, one of the great things about COVID, was that I gained access to some So you guys may not know this, not having spent a lot of time in New York, but like everything's super fucking hard to do in New York. That's not so hard to do often in other parts of the country, like play tennis, for example. So like everyone has a tennis court in their neighborhood. Like in New York, it's really fucking hard, even to play on public courts. You have to get a pass, which is hundreds of dollars. Then you get to play for an hour, and it's like you got to reserve that special time. So because there's just limited space, right? So I after 5 years, I got off a 5-year wait list last summer to have access to some private tennis courts that I can access every day if I want.
Oh, way, that's incredible.
So it was, again, for lack of a better term, it was a godsend. So that's been a wonderful thing. I played a lot when I was young, and basically took a 10-year hiatus, and now it's nice to get back in there.
So do you pay like a monthly fee and then it's your
It's an
tennis court?
annual dues basically. Yeah.
And then you can bring whoever.
I think I have 6 guests per year, so
Oh wow,
it's pretty strict.
that's so interesting. Yeah, I feel you.
And they have to pay.
Wow. I've been like looking for a pool where I can swim laps, and it's a little harder than just like I feel like in Los Angeles a lot of gyms just have pools. And it's like even the not great ones, but then in New York it's a little different.
Oh yeah, I feel for you, man. I really feel for you. Like a Olympic side, because you like to swim laps. You like to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like
doggy style.
Probably not
doggy paddle, not doggy style. Doggy paddle.
Fun fact: I played
Are those
water
different?
polo. I did water polo and swam growing up, and then Hugh was a swimmer in college.
What?
So, D2.
So you have
D1?
those
D3.
overdeveloped. Do you have those like overdeveloped lats or whatever's going on? Those swimmers.
The lat slap is real. That's a fun.
What was your event, Hugh?
I think what were we? John, you were a sprinter too, right?
Oh,
I was 5,300.
I was a primarily water polo person.
That is wild. Just because I watched during the Olympics. I watched the water polo during the. Do you watch it during the Olympics, John? Water polo?
Yeah, I wish I could just like click on the event and watch the game, but like why is that so hard? I had a lot of complaints about that. I didn't watch as much as I wanted to.
Oh. I hope you wrote a letter.
Yeah, maybe I should. Strongly worded letter.
Yeah.
Would you try to watch it on?
On whatever NBC or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I don't want to I didn't have the Olympics on, and I watched like some clips on YouTube, but I would have. Yeah.
Do you subscribe to Peacock?
What's that? Is that a YouTube channel?
I'm guessing it's a.
No, are you being serious? You don't Peacock? Peacock is NBC's subscription.
Oh no, I don't. I don't have a TV.
I think you can. It's online.
So yeah, I'm sure.
But I think they may have given you the ability to watch individual events.
Okay, that's good to know. All right.
So before you write that letter, just have your facts straight.
Yeah, not to also pitch. I went to some friend's house and they had YouTube TV. Take it as you will, and I was kind of impressed by how their UI works. I was like, you can actually pick the event as you're exactly saying, John, and then you could find like highlights.
Okay.
Like I missed all the swimming events, and so I went to their house. We were watching through. I was like, wait, can we actually watch the swimming for the 4x100 free relay? I missed it. And they're like, yeah. It's like, oh, and then we watched it. It was actually pretty impressive. So it's what is it though? I think it's like 60 a month, 70 a month. So I mean, it's way cheaper than cable, but it's still
YouTube
kind of
TV.
pricey. Yeah, YouTube TV or something is a new streaming type service for cable stuff. I'm not the most up to date on these things, but it seems very interesting to people who don't want to spend an arm and a leg for cable. I think that's like what, a few hundred a month.
Yeah, what you guys are telling me is I should just pay for the service if I wanted that feature. All right, I
think there's workarounds. I do, because I watch a lot of European soccer, and so I have Sling is like my main TV, but then which is I think 30 a month, and then Peacock is $5 a month, and it's for the English Premier League, and then ESPN Plus I think it's $7 a month, and it gives you Spanish League and now Italian. I also have Paramount Plus, which is somewhere in there, but it sounds like a lot, and it is, but yeah, it's actually I think the value is really high because I for the soccer, and then Star Trek, of course.
I know nothing about European football, but do you have a team, and how did you know?
Not exactly. I'm a big fan of the U.S. national team, and I like to follow the careers of those players. So thankfully,
see which day jobs they have.
Exactly. I like to peer into their day jobs. Yeah, so I follow the players primarily who play in Europe, the American players. So it's like this guy Christian Pulisic plays at Chelsea, and like down you go. We have guys at Borussia Dortmund in Germany, or RB Leipzig in Germany. So I'll check out those games. They have a guy that plays at Juventus, Weston McKennie, which is a big team in Italy.
My dad does the same thing for the Korean players, and I only know of one.
Yeah, Son, I'm sure, on Tottenham, right?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's amazing. No, he's incredible. I love him. He's fantastic, amazing, and he's also apparently just a fantastic human being, and great smile, good sport. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Good for him. Some people get all the luck in the world.
Yeah, it's totally luck, isn't it? Or is it passion?
It's passion. If you feel like you're just not passionate enough, John. If you feel like you don't have it.
We need him to answer the question. What is passion?
But about that question, did we ever fit? No, I'm just kidding. I need to go back to that.
I know I didn't technically answer what's my definition of passion, but I feel like the answer.
I'm not really worried, though. I'm actually was more intrigued of. Were you a baritone?
Oh, look at you! Look at Hugh! Look at Hugh! You. I was baritone, and
I could tell by your voice register.
You could tell by my mellifluous.
I'm a baritone too.
Go on.
What was your acapella group's name?
Wait, what was yours?
Mood Swing.
Oh shit! Ours was not punny or clever. It's called the Octals.
Ooh, very cool.
Oh yeah. So we have baritone, tenor too.
What liberal arts school did you go to?
It's called Dickinson College. Cool. It's in central Pennsylvania near Harrisburg. Oh, you guys are liberal arts guys, right?
Yeah, we were West Coast liberal arts, so yeah, totally West different. Coast, Best Coast, and then there's you two in New York now. Every episode I have to get a jab into the East Coast just because of John. Sorry,
Fair
John.
Enough.
No, that's cool.
He was in Arizona right now.
Yeah,
living his best life.
The best life, those 90-degree days right now. It rained yesterday randomly. I was like, oh, it's raining. Amazing.
Strangely enough, same here. It was disgusting, and then we had some rain, and it cooled off a bit.
Wow. I don't understand what good weather is or rain, but oh well.
What is weather?
What is good? Snow? What is that white thing in the sky?
Ed, we ask all of our guests this, but do you have any words of wisdom for our one or two listeners?
Have you not been listening to everything I've said?
He's like, yeah, have you not been writing this shit down? Take notes.
Yeah, follow your curiosity. No. Just in general. General words of wisdom. Yeah, I mean, follow your curiosity is a really good one, actually, I would say. Not as opposed to your passion. I think, I don't know about words of wisdom, but this is just something that's been on my mind lately, which is, I think I've been reflecting a lot on what we want out of life in terms of, the people call it the Faustian bargain or the Faustian agreement we've made in terms of a lot of the products we use. If you're not paying for it, you're the product, that idea. So, you're a lot of social media, for example, just low hanging fruit there. And I'm not sure that's great for us, internally and externally. And is that the world we want to create? Everything, I think another thing I love to think about is like, everything is made up, right? National borders, words, everything is made, humans made it all up, everything. And so which means we don't have to accept necessarily things as they are. It's hard to make any concrete change, significant change on our own, but even the idea of the right way to live a life, buy a house in the suburbs, right? That was a message I received growing up. Fuck that. Why? So just the script that a lot of us are given or were given, there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I'm not judging the script, but at least question it and ask yourself, how much of what I'm doing is because it's like what my parents wanted me to do, or what I had these deep-seated ideas about what the right way to go through life is or was. And just think about that. Just think about that, because everything's made up, and you can go a different path if you want. That's all. That's what's been on my mind.
Dang, Ed is about to start a new life in France.
I'm going to start a podcast to compete directly with yours and crush you.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal your 33 subscribers. I'm going to steal them.
Dude, 2 of them are us. I'll subscribe.
Amazing.
Maybe a third. Maybe I'm making fake accounts.
That would be an honor. That would be an honor if you outcompeted us and just stole my mom's attention, who doesn't even watch the episodes, but you got her to watch your episodes. That would be an honor.
Have you heard about Ed the First? It's such a great podcast. He's traveling all around France. He's become a king, I've heard.
If I accomplish nothing else in this life, it's to capture John's mother's attention. That's all. If I do nothing else in this life, that's all I'll consider it a life well lived.
It would be a life well lived indeed. That's amazing. And the Olympics, amazing. All right. Well, I hate to be the guy, but we have come to the end of another incredible podcast where we had such an awesome guest, Sir Ed the First, Israel of America, France, and the globe.
Yeah.
Tennis player, aficionado of music and life philosophy or theology. Who would know?
Well, I feel like I gotta get in on it, John.
So, anyways, Ed, we hope you have a great time rediscovering and having a good time in France, exploring.
Thank you. Merci.
Innovating, rediscovering your youthful creativity and wonder for the world. And this is a podcast, though, where on the Moon Tea podcast, where we talk about craft, community, building meaningful careers. Like, comment, tell us if you're even listening, because probably, who knows if you are. And then, hey, we'll tune in next week. See ya.
Peace.
Thank you.